Most car trips start with simple plans: a quick drive, a short stop, nothing out of the ordinary. But some roads hide moments that turn routine into horror in seconds. In this video, we will look at 5 more of the most disturbing car crash deaths ever documented. These are real cases where lives ended in ways that left investigators stunned and witnesses shaken. These stories are not about bad luck. They show how fast control can vanish and how one moment can change everything. It was July 25th, 2025 in Burnett County, Texas. 5 young women were driving south on U.S. Highway 281 in a Mercedes SUV. They were on their way to Kingsland, a quiet lake town that meant a lot to them. Behind the wheel was 23-year-old Thalia Salinas. This trip was her birthday celebration. With her were her closest friends, Ruby Cruz, Brianna Valadez, Desiree Cervantes, and Jacqueline Velasco. They had known each other since middle school and treated each other like family. Thalia's relatives were following about 45 minutes behind, planning to meet the group at the lake house. The women were only about 20 minutes from their destination. Then, around 6 p.m., everything changed. A 2018 Ram 4500 truck pulling a livestock trailer was heading north. It was driven by 37-year-old Cody Lane Talley from Leander. For reasons still under investigation, his truck suddenly crossed the center line. It first hit a Chevy Malibu. The driver survived with minor injuries. The truck then continued forward and struck the Mercedes head-on. The impact was devastating. The Mercedes flipped onto its side, rolled off the road, and came to rest in a twisted position. A fire started almost immediately and spread fast. All 5 women were trapped inside and passed away at the scene. The drivers of the other vehicles survived with minor injuries. Only the 5 friends in the Mercedes did not make it out. Talley's truck went through a fence. Officials said he refused medical care and walked away before troopers could speak with him. He was not tested for any substances at the scene. Local news later confirmed that no breath test or screening was performed that day. Dash camera footage captured the moment of impact, and data from Talley's truck showed the accelerator was fully pressed in the seconds before the crash. There was no sign of braking. Meanwhile, Thalia's family was still driving toward Kingsland. Their GPS suddenly redirected them because of a crash. They had no idea they were being rerouted around the accident involving their loved ones. When they learned the truth, the celebration they had planned turned into unbearable grief. The families released statements describing their devastation. They explained that the 5 women were more than friends. They were sisters who celebrated everything together. Each young woman had her own path ahead of her. Thalia was witty, organized, and had just become an aunt. Ruby was deeply loved by her sister Anna, who knew every detail about her. Brianna had been accepted into nursing school and was preparing to start. Jacqueline was known for her warmth and strong presence. Desiree, who worked at a law firm, was kind, gentle, and cared deeply about others. Days passed with no arrest. The families waited for answers, confused about why Talley had not been tested or detained. On August 5th, nearly 2 weeks later, Talley was arrested and charged with 5 counts of manslaughter. But anger grew when court records revealed he had 22 prior criminal charges, including 2 incidents involving impaired driving. Families could not understand why he was allowed to leave the scene without testing that day. Community members created fundraisers for each family, raising nearly $100,000. A roadside memorial appeared along Highway 281 with 5 custom hearts, 1 for each woman. Investigators collected dash camera footage, truck data, and witness accounts, but without a test from the day of the crash, determining whether impairment played a role became more difficult. 3 families hired an attorney to pursue legal action. Funerals were held in early August. The women's families, once connected through friendship, were now joined in shared grief. On that evening of July 25th, a truck crossed a center line, an SUV flipped and burned, and 5 lifelong friends lost their lives only minutes from the place where they hoped to celebrate together. It was December 2nd, 2025 in San Jose, California. It was a Tuesday morning, and 29-year-old Ivana Balestreri was heading to work. She rode in the passenger seat of a Lexus driven by her fiancé, Zach Martins. Their 1-year-old daughter, Liliana, sat in her safety seat in the back. They were on their way to the barbershop where Ivana worked. Nothing about the morning seemed unusual. It was supposed to be a quick drive. Instead, it became a moment that changed everything. At 11:09 a.m., they were driving north on Highway 87 near the Kirtner Avenue exit when a violent 4-car crash unfolded. 2 Teslas, a Lexus, and a Toyota Sienna collided in a chain reaction. Investigators still do not know what started it, but the impact was severe. Both Teslas caught fire almost instantly. The flames spread fast, pulling the other cars into the blaze. Ivana and her family were trapped inside the Lexus, which was struck hard and pinned between the burning vehicles. Zach tried to reach Ivana and Liliana, but the heat and smoke were overwhelming. Witnesses later said he ran around the car in panic, trying every door, shouting for help. The flames moved too quickly. Fire crews arrived within minutes, but by then the fire had taken over. Ivana and little Liliana lost their lives inside the car. Against all odds, Zach survived with minor injuries. When the news reached Ivana's family, everything fell apart. Her sister, Francesca Alexander, had talked to her earlier that morning. She expected another message later that day. Instead came a call no one is prepared for. Francesca said the loss shattered their family in a way she could barely put into words. Ivana had just gotten engaged in October and was preparing for Liliana's second birthday in 2 weeks. Ivana belonged to a close Italian family. Her parents, Benedetta and Aurelio Balistreri, were born in Sicily. Ivana, the youngest of 4 siblings, Francesca, Rosie, and Gaetano, grew up in San Jose surrounded by family. Losing her left a silence they could not describe. Her sister Rosie remembered how proud Ivana was of learning to cook. She would send photos of her meals, excited to show her progress. She also loved painting and kept that creative side mostly to herself. Rosie said Ivana pushed her to take care of her health, calling her daily, encouraging her to get outside, even on her hardest days. Ivana's cousin Ilenia, who was also Liliana's godmother, said Ivana guided her through pregnancy and postpartum. She said they were extremely close. The family joked for years about a boy curse. Since everyone kept having sons, Ivana broke that pattern with Liliana. The cousins looked forward to raising their daughters side by side. That future disappeared in an instant. The loss of Liliana, their little sunbeam, added another layer of pain. Her smile and laughter lit up every room. She had only 2 weeks until her second birthday. The California Highway Patrol later said the impact of the crash triggered the Tesla fires, which then spread to the Lexus. Alcohol or drugs did not appear to be factors. Investigators were still piecing together the cause, leaving the family waiting for answers. Zach survived physically, but the emotional toll was crushing. He had seen everything and could do nothing. The family tried to support him, but there were no words strong enough. A GoFundMe page was set up to help with funeral costs and to gather any information from witnesses. The investigation continued, but the cause remained unknown. As the family prepared services, they decided to honor Ivana by wearing bright colors, flowers, and outfits she would have loved. They wanted to remember her warmth, her art, her cooking, and the joy Liliana brought into their lives. For now, they continue to wait for answers, holding on to the memories of 2 lives taken far too soon. It was November 18, 2025, in Las Vegas, Nevada. The Northwest Valley was moving through a normal afternoon when, around 3:30 p.m., something unthinkable happened at the intersection of Cheyenne Avenue and Jones Boulevard. What looked at first like a crash soon revealed itself as an intentional act that left 3 people dead and several others seriously hurt. Behind the wheel was 19-year-old Jose Gutierrez, driving a 2011 Infiniti G37. His 20-year-old girlfriend, Adeline Duran Rincon, who was expecting a child, sat in the passenger seat. The car belonged to her mother. Witnesses later said Gutierrez was traveling at about 109 miles per hour in a zone marked for 45 miles per hour. What disturbed investigators most was that he never tried to slow down. He drove straight into a line of stopped cars at a red light. The impact created a chain reaction involving 12 vehicles. The first car he hit burst into flames and slammed into 10 others. Adeline was thrown from the car and found dead at the scene. Another victim, 38-year-old Edward Garcia, was caught in the burning wreckage and did not survive. A third person, 25-year-old Vanessa Lainez Vasquez, was rushed to the hospital but passed away from her injuries. Body camera footage from first responders showed the chaos. An Amazon delivery driver ran toward officers, guiding them to someone still alive but trapped. Nearby, another person lay motionless on the ground. Crews moved fast, checking pulses, pulling survivors from crushed cars, and doing what they could as smoke filled the air. The scene made it clear this was not a random crash. Investigators later confirmed that Gutierrez never hit the brakes. Witnesses saw his car speeding for nearly a mile, the engine roaring as he approached the intersection. His past behavior only deepened concerns. Just 2 months earlier, he had caused a collision after running a stop sign and hitting an elderly woman. In October, he was cited for driving 52 miles per hour in a 35-mile-per-hour zone. Earlier in April, officers were called to a domestic dispute where Gutierrez reportedly threatened an officer, saying he would cause them serious harm. After the crash, officers found a marijuana vape pen on him, and his eyes looked irritated, but tests showed he was not under the influence. The speed, The lack of braking and the pattern of behavior led prosecutors to say this was a deliberate act. At first, Gutierrez faced charges for reckless driving causing loss of life and major injury. But after reviewing video evidence showing him accelerating toward the stopped cars, prosecutors raised the charges. He now faced 2 counts related to intentional loss of life, attempted intentional harm, and battery with a deadly weapon. His attorneys argued he might have suffered a seizure, but investigators rejected this, noting that his driving did not change at any point. There was no swerving, slowing, or drifting, just a straight path at extreme speed into the intersection. Families of the victims were left devastated. A GoFundMe page was created to help with Adeline's funeral costs. She had been 11 weeks pregnant. Her mother said she wished she could have her daughter back, knowing she never would. Witnesses shared their accounts during a preliminary hearing. One former police officer described pulling Gutierrez from the car as he complained about back pain. Others spoke about seeing a fireball or comparing the crash to a deliberate attack. Gutierrez first admitted he was driving, then denied it, then admitted it again. As of December 2025, Gutierrez remained in custody with no bail, awaiting a January 2026 hearing. The crash that ended the lives of Adeline, Edward, and Vanessa left a deep mark on the community. The footage and witness accounts show a moment when one person's choices brought permanent loss to many, leaving behind questions that the court will soon decide. It was April 17, 2025 in Valdagno, a small town in northern Italy. Leone Nardone, a 64-year-old business owner, and his 21-year-old son Francesco were driving through town around 8 p.m. Storm Hans had been tearing through northern Italy all day, bringing heavy rain, fast flooding, and landslides. Most people stayed indoors, but Leone and Francesco were not heading home. They were heading into the storm to help with rescue work. Leone ran an industrial automation and robotics company and was well known in the community. Francesco studied engineering at the University of Modena, but he always returned to Valdagno when he could. He played trumpet for band Corneto Vicentino and never missed practice or concerts while he was in town. Both men were known for showing up when help was needed. So when the storm hit, they did what they always did. They stepped forward. Storm Hans pushed the region to its limit. Piedmont was under a red alert. Rain had been falling for hours, turning roads into streams. Trees fell on power lines. 26,000 people in Aosta Valley lost electricity. Rivers were close to overflowing in 100 municipalities. Emergency teams reported 23 landslides. Roads were collapsing. Bridges were unstable. The situation grew more serious by the hour. Still, Leone and Francesco drove out into the dangerous weather. They knew responders needed help, but they did not know how unstable the ground had become. The soil was soaked through. Water was pooling under certain roads, creating empty spaces below the surface. The weight above was too much. Around 8 p.m., as they drove along a stretch of road in Valdagno, the rain was pounding. Water rushed across the pavement, and visibility was low. Then the ground beneath them suddenly collapsed. A sinkhole opened directly under their car, and the vehicle dropped straight down. Witnesses later said it looked like the earth had opened and swallowed the car. The soaked ground had finally failed. Floodwater then poured into the sinkhole, creating a strong current that pulled the car toward the nearby Agno River. Leone and Francesco were trapped inside a vehicle being dragged toward fast-rising water. Emergency crews arrived quickly, but the scene was too dangerous. The ground could collapse again at any moment, and the floodwater was violent. Getting close meant risking more lives. Rescue was not possible. The car was swept into the Agno River and carried downstream. By 2 a.m. on April 18th, Leone and Francesco had not returned home. Their family called the police right away. At first light, responders searched along the sinkhole site and down the river. Conditions were still dangerous, but they pushed forward. Leone was found later that morning, about 6 miles downstream, lodged in the riverbed. It confirmed what everyone feared. Francesco was found closer to the sinkhole, near the car, caught in vegetation along the riverbank. Evidence suggested he had managed to get out of the vehicle but was overwhelmed by the force of the water before he could reach safety. The loss shook Valdagno. Veneto President Luca Zaia called it a tragedy and warned the public to stay away from bridges and river edges. Band Corneto Vicentino released a tribute honoring Francesco's dedication, integrity, and kindness. The sinkhole was the result of rare conditions, extreme rainfall, weakened ground, and fast floodwater all happening at once. Leone and Francesco were not caught in the storm by chance. They went out to help their community. Their story spread through the region, leaving people with a heavy feeling. Two men who acted out of duty and compassion stepped into a situation no one could have predicted. Even in the worst weather, they chose to help and paid the ultimate price for it. It was the morning of December 10, 2025 in Somerton, a suburb in northern Melbourne. The Hume Highway was packed with the usual weekday traffic as thousands of people drove to work, school, and early appointments. Among them was 21-year-old Sayyida Nafisa Zulfikar, an administrative and enrollment officer at my college, an Islamic primary school in Dallas. Her morning was supposed to follow her usual routine. She liked arriving early to prepare documents, answer messages, and help families with enrollment. Her co-workers said she was the kind of person who always gave extra effort. At home, she helped her parents manage a busy household with 5 brothers. Her father said she had a sincere heart and was always looking out for others. But at around 7:45 a.m., only minutes after she entered the highway, everything changed in an instant. A red sedan and a truck were traveling north on the same stretch of road. Investigators later described their contact as a minor collision, but it caused the truck to lose balance. The truck rolled onto its side, sliding across the road and hitting a tall metal light pole. The pole, several stories high, could not withstand the force. It bent, snapped at its base, and fell toward the southbound lanes. At that exact moment, Sayyida was driving south in her silver Honda. She could not see the truck rolling. She could not see the pole breaking. It fell too fast for her to slow down or avoid it. The pole came down directly onto her car. It crushed the roof and trapped her inside instantly. Witnesses said the impact was loud enough to echo across the highway. Drivers rushed out of their cars to help, but the pole had pinned the Honda to the road and the frame was crushed. Emergency services arrived within minutes. Fire crews had to stabilize the pole before they could reach her. Paramedics worked to assist her, but she suffered severe head injuries from the collapse. Despite all efforts, she did not respond, and she was declared deceased at the scene. The truck driver survived but had serious upper and lower body injuries. The people inside the red sedan were not harmed. Police shut down several lanes for hours as investigators inspected the scene. Drone footage showed the truck lying on its side, debris scattered across the highway, and Sayyida's Honda trapped under the fallen pole. Traffic backed up for long distances, and authorities told drivers to use alternative routes. Her family received the news that morning. Her father posted online that his daughter had returned to Allah, sharing that she had left home following her usual routine and passed before anyone could help her. He described her as respectful, modest, prayerful, and always putting others first. Her mother and brothers began preparing for the funeral, overwhelmed by the sudden loss. My college released a tribute saying she was warm, patient, and caring, someone who helped every student and family with kindness. Colleagues said the school felt quieter without her. Crash investigators studied video footage, skid marks, and the point of impact. They reviewed the pole's structure and interviewed witnesses, the truck driver, and the sedan's occupants. No charges were filed at the time. Police called the event extremely unusual, something no one could have predicted. The incident brought Victoria's 2025 road toll to 271 deaths, only one less than the year before. Authorities expressed concern about rising road tragedies and how even a small roadway mistake can affect many lives. People across her community shared memories of her calm presence and her willingness to help anyone who needed support. Her father's past detention in Singapore in 2016 came up in public discussions, but investigators made it clear that his history had no connection to the accident. As crews cleared debris and examined the road surface, officials also began discussing ways to strengthen roadside poles in high-traffic areas. But for her family, none of these steps could change what happened. They were preparing for her funeral on Friday, surrounded by friends, relatives, and members of the school community. The crash investigation continued, but the truth was simple. A minor collision set off a chain reaction that caused a pole to fall at the exact moment Sayyida drove past. Her injuries left no chance for survival. It was a sudden, devastating loss for her family, friends, and everyone who knew her.